Hello, I'm Ilan Shravinsky and you're watching Break the Fake. They make them, we break them, and tell you everything you need to know. At last, Russia has something to celebrate. A historic victory in the great city of Sudzha, a town that was already part of Russia. That's right, after months of fierce imaginary battles, the Kremlin's finest strategists have managed to liberate their own territory. One can only assume the next grand offensive will involve retaking Moscow from the grip of traffic jams and bureaucracy. This stunning achievement has emboldened Russia's top propagandists to reject any talk of a ceasefire. Why stop now, when they're on such a roll? Olga Skabeva, ever the voice of measured diplomacy, proclaims that Russia has no reason to agree to peace, presumably because the dream of turning Ukraine into Novorossiya still lingers in some dusty folder on Putin's desk. Meanwhile, the man himself assures the world that Russia is open to negotiations, but only after the United States administration magically decides that Ukraine should belong to the Kremlin.
Что касается дипломатических побед Зеленского, если Зеленскому так, не дай бог, могло показаться, то лучше всего об этом сказала пресс-секретарь Белого дома, чудесная женщина, своим сообщением дала понять, что Дональд Трамп, я цитирую, Дональд Трамп поставил Зеленского на место и дал ему понять, что все здесь настроены максимально серьезно. Главное опасение всех тех, кто болеет за нашу страну, заключается в том, что в тот момент, когда у нас получается, а у них очевидный провал, у них это у ВСУ, на каких основаниях мы должны согласиться на перемирие? Вот ключевой вопрос. То есть какие условия? Вы отдаете нам 4 области, тогда это один разговор. Не отдаете, это другой разговор. Нейтральный статус, это третий разговор.
Это вопрос, который Вытков привезет в пятницу.
Конечно.
Обсуждать.
Если он все это привезет и подарит, то, конечно же, на здоровье.
И что касается Трампа, у него следующий тайминг, то есть когда он собирается там... у него сейчас вообще как бы проблемы с экономикой, держу в курсе немножко.
Yeah, you guys are going to be really surprised when the gifts in questions just happen to be sanctions. Anyway, it's the same tired script all over again. Russia is the victim, the West is to blame, peace will come only on our terms. Because nothing says rational negotiations like invading a neighboring country, committing war crimes, and then demanding that your enemies surrender before any talks begin. Classic Russian diplomacy. Start a fire, then insist you'll only put it out once you've remodeled the house to your liking. But don't you worry, the real root cause of the war, Russia's imperial delusions, remains completely intact. So, for now, the Kremlin will keep sending young soldiers to die, hoping that one day they'll be able to liberate Kiev the way they just liberated the fine city of Sudzha. Dictatorship Appreciation Court is now in session. This time, a motley crew of Russia understanders from America made a day trip to Moscow for a friendly chat with Sergei Lavrov. The participants of this genuflection yoga were Mario Naufal, Elon Musk's fave blogger who recently did a freewheeling interview with Belarusian dictator Lukashenko, and pro-Russian YouTuber Larry C. Johnson, who had briefly worked at the CIA. And last but not least, former judge and podcaster Andrew Napolitano. But don't expect riveting court drama. This whole thing was, spoiler alert, a very tepid affair. And on the other side of the table, the man, the legend, cringe incarnate, diplomat by name only, Sergei Lavrov. And right off the bat, a weapons-grade disinformation overdose. The dreaded Russian speakers.
Who live not only on the liberated territories, but on the territories under the control of the regime. They also, most of them, speak Russian. They were brought as part of the Russian culture. And they want their kids to know Russian and to learn Russian. My question was whether this law, or several pieces of law, prohibiting Russian language, whether this would be cancelled on the territory which would be left of Ukraine. There is no answer.
Did you know the claim Ukraine banned the Russian language is completely fake? Some claim Kyiv's mayor Vitaly Klitschko prohibited speaking Russian back in 2023, but he did not. He only placed a ban on some products of Russian culture, like books or films which could convey Russian propaganda. Also, did you know Russia has been habitually unaliving those precious Russian speakers in artillery barrages against cities like Kharkiv? Well, that's because Putin and his henchmen simply don't care. But wait, there is more.
So had they been cooperative and had they delivered on their own initiative, they would still have 1991 borders minus Crimea, minus some part of Donbass.
They should have taken the deal. Of course they should.
Every time they cheat, they lose. And the process continues.
Okay, so much to digest here. First, shifting the blame on Ukraine. Russia never wanted to comply with its own promises in the first place. I know I keep asking this question, but remember the Budapest Memorandum? Who's cheating, really? Plus, taking Crimea was just as much against international law as everything else, you know. Also, you surely noticed the choir of fanboys immediately saying Ukraine should have taken the so-called deal. Judge Napolitano evidently doesn't know his international law. Nobody's shouting, objection, hearsay. Nobody cross-examines the evidence. Worst court drama ever. I rest my case, Your Honor, because if this is how you examine a witness, then I'd rather get the chair than watch this. Thank you very much. And now for another episode of Russia's Got Delusions, featuring the dynamic duo of Solovyov and Klintsevich. This time, they are unraveling a shocking conspiracy. Ukraine has an actual defense industry. Apparently, tiny tech startups building drones are now considered terrorist threats, but can only be neutralized by Russian boots storming every basement in Ukraine. Because nothing screams military superpower quite like being terrified of teenagers soldering circuit boards in a garage. Klintsevich, of course, goes full sci-fi, declaring that Ukrainians are actually brainwashed bioweapons, throwing Molotovs on command. That's right, forget economic hardship, forget people resisting occupation. According to the Kremlin's finest minds, anyone opposing Russia is clearly programmed to be a cyber slave, under Zelensky's hypnotic spell, probably. And the best part? Russia's secret agents definitely know where all this is happening. They've got names, they've got locations, and any day now, they will heroically keep ranting about it on Solovyov's show. Speaking of which, Solovyov, never one to miss a chance at unhinged bloodlust, adds his usual touch of genocidal fan fiction. We should kill everyone. Why just imprison them? End of quote. The peaceful diplomacy of Russia's finest propagandists. And they wonder why their special military operation isn't winning any hearts and minds.
Прикован к телевизорам, с вниманием смотрит за дипломатическими переговорами, вот этим таким танцем, который будет в Саудовской Аравии, на самом деле дипломаты всегда опираются на события, происходящие на земле. И то, что происходит на Курской земле, это действительно очень мощная операция, которая заранее была спланирована. Причем, обратите внимание, это по времени было очень много разных событий. Это огромное количество участников, в том числе гражданский сектор, который помогал работать с инфраструктурой газовых этих труб там, и так далее. Это события, которые по времени очень четко были синхронизированы, потому что время является ключевым фактором на поле боя. Условно говоря, огневой налет, если тебе сделать на час позже, когда ты идешь, ты не дойдешь просто до окопов противника. Это здесь было создано нашими группировками внешние клещи, которые сузили дорогу на Сумы через Юнакивку.
But don't worry, Europe. According to Klintsevich, Ukrainian hackers are already infiltrating your societies, whispering forbidden truths in flawless German and Italian. Soon, unsuspecting Europeans will wake up, horrified, realizing they have been supporting democracy and self-defense all along. The horror. So, what's the takeaway here? Well, Russia is scared. Scared of drones, scared of tech startups, scared of people who speak languages fluently, scared of reality itself, which, considering the state of their army, makes perfect sense. And with this, we conclude this episode of Break the Fake. Please stay with us here on TVP World for more latest news and features.